Welcome back to the EULCS Spring Playoffs, where Splyce and Odoamne are 2-0 up against ROCCAT going into match point. And we wanted to take this opportunity to take a closer look at the Romanian top laner. Odoamne just had a fantastic game, but on top of that, has had a very long history in the EULCS. Truly one of the mainstays on the European scene.
One of the true veterans. We have started all the way back in 2015 when we had the expansion tournament, and he actually managed to qualify with H2K
Ancient
back
history.
then. It's a long time ago. He was, of course, the top laner from that H2K lineup, where people will also remember a player like Febiven playing with him in Challenger. Coming in then to the LCS, he's actually from the get-go been considered one of the best and most consistent top laners ever since he joined.
That is true. He has been on H2K, or he had been for 6 splits, and he made playoffs 6 out of 6 times. So a lot of successes domestically, but never that cup, never that championship. However, come 2016 Worlds, a career highlight for H2K and for Odoamne is that World semi-final in Madison Square Garden.
Yeah, and I really feel like that was the first time he showed the world how dominant he could be also as a carry top laner, because they won so many games where it was about him on like Jace or Kennen, and they just played around him early and he won his lane every single time. So it was a big moment for him. Obviously, this specific split has been a little bit more dog champs for him early on, but we are seeing more of the carry style from Odoamne specifically, which is especially what we see in the numbers based on the last few weeks he played, where as the Camille game we just saw here, they actually focus on getting him ahead in the early game.
Well, the story of Splyce, as you say, it was a bit of up and down, and it didn't seem like Odoamne's true potential was being unlocked in the first couple of weeks, but as the weeks went on, it definitely turned around. He got the chance to play a bit more carry champions, which he was quite vocal about as well, and it's been paying off, especially in that last game.
Yeah, and we keep seeing it now, how his synergy is great with his jungler, how the team is trusting him, and they know, okay, they have a great AD carry they can rely on, but they need someone else to be the carry next to him, and that is going to be Odoamne in most of the games. So we are seeing him play at a very high level. A lot of players also voted him in as one of the all-pro top laners, despite a poor start to the split, because the second half has been so good.
Also a fantastic guest on the Euphoria podcast.
Very funny. Very funny.
So if we dial it back into today, this quarterfinal where Splyce had to win, or has to win versus ROCCAT to make it to the semifinals, it's going pretty well. They are up 2-0 at this point going into match point, and Odoamne had a great last game, and it just seems like Splyce is very much in the zone and a step above ROCCAT.
They definitely understand what it is ROCCAT are trying to do in the pick and ban phases, so they make sure that Kasinga and Copy have like a fairly safe bottom lane to counteract these like first pick Caitlyn or the first pick Xayah we saw in the first game. And then they just go top lane and they say, hey, Odoamne, we should just gank your lane and you will kill people, and it actually works extremely well. I think ROCCAT, I understand what they're trying to do. It's what Cole talked about in the preview, you know, play around a bot lane where they can make plays against Kasing specifically, but it's not working. They're not actually getting 2v2 advantages that they can use. And then suddenly this Shen pick ends up being too hard to execute, because you got to be very proactive early. You got to really set up properly before you actually do anything, and it ends up being defensive ultis from Shen, and then they try and gank his lane, and that doesn't matter because they lose the bottom side. And
do you think the plan is too complicated? Does it need to be simpler for ROCCAT?
I think that plan makes a lot of sense if the bot lane 2v2 is able to get a big advantage with the early rotation picks they get, and then they can use that lead to secure everything, like first turret on bottom side, Drake, then swap top lane, get the Rift Herald and top lane tower. Then the Shen pick makes a lot of sense, because Prophet's job is to play around this strong AD carry them, but they are going even most of the time, and then it's very easy for Splyce to just kind of outplay them in the early game and then play better team fights later.
So 2 games in a row, we've seen in draft phase a lot of priority in getting that bottom lane a good matchup and possibly ahead, but we did also see Blanc actually picking up some kills early this game, so it could have been a win condition. But the sad thing is that none of it has worked for ROCCAT. Then I want to refer back to your keys to victory at the top of the day, your third option. Invest everything in Prophet. Is that where they're going to go then?
They have been trying to at least go towards his lane, but he's not been on champions where he could fully snowball. Like, he could grab the Camille for himself, and they could try and do what Splyce just did this game. I think the other option they still have left is draft a super strong scaling comp. It does not require you to be very proactive in the early game. You don't have to mechanically outplay Splyce. You can just rely on getting to late game and play really strong team fights with scaling picks for Blank and Hikyu. it is how they picked up most of their wins in the regular season, and it's still an option they do have left to try here in the third game.
Well, the man we talked about a lot before this match, Memento, is going to have to play a crucial role if Roccat want to come back. He has to get one of his lanes ahead and has to get that snowball rolling. But Deficio, is it possible? Do you see Roccat coming back after this very tough second game loss and now being up against match point, having to win 3 games in a row?
I predicted 3-0 Splyce coming into this. I think the first 2 games have shown why. I'm obviously going to stick with that prediction. It would be weird if I suddenly changed. I think if Roccat drafts an easy-to-execute comp with more scaling so they can actually try and match team fights, I could see them potentially win a game. But at this point, also with the fact that none of these guys have actually played a playoff game, Prophet was the sub on a team that made playoffs.
A lot of experience on Splyce.
A lot of experience on Splyce side. I think this Roccat team, they might just collapse completely and lose this third game.
This might be the end of the road for Roccat. Let's see if they can pull it back. The team's already on stage. Let's leave it to our casters and get us into game 3.
Thank you very much, Shucks. And backs against the wall right now. Vettis, it's okay, though. The plan, the reverse sweep, it's all still alive. Now, they're definitely going to have to surprise
his
here.
prediction is relying
It's still,
on right now.
everything is going according to plan. Lose 2 games. No, seriously.
Yeah, so Splyce, they
come
have
back.
selected red side. They had side selection because they were the highest seed on games 1, 3, and 5. They have chosen red side. Now, Roccat did have choice on 2 and 4, but they still wanted to stay on blue, which is why you've now seen 3 games in a row where they're going to be on the same setup. Now, we're already jumping into champs like Pyra. We've heard a lot of different theories about what Roccat should do coming into this game. Personally, I think they just draft a strong winning 2 versus 2. They play through Blanc. He's been the guy that's one of the big carries for this team, and just go all in. Give bottom lane a decent 2 versus 2. Do not try to invest loads of resources into it. Give Prophet something like an Ornn or maybe even a Camille for himself.
Yeah.
And then just go all in on Snowball Blanc. Have Memento have a big, playmaking early game jungler and just go all in on the Blanc hype train.
Yep. And it looks like one of the other things is to make sure that Xerxes can't be on such a comfortable champion. The adaptation here is they ban out the Zac against him. Everything else still roughly the same. And now also a Morgana ban Kasing's way. Interesting where the focus lies.
So they want to take Kasing off of something that he's had a lot of success with over the last 2 games. Hiku and Noskaran have failed to properly punish it down the bottom. And with Thresh still on the cards, it does mean that Splyce have a variety of range supports left that they can still bring out.
Right. Now Zaya's banned once more. Roccat won't have a chance to get that bottom lane.
Perhaps they're expecting the Caitlyn once again to come out from Roccat. Feel like they might look to early lock in the Rise here, or maybe just go for the Camille. Put Prophet on something that not only he can have a decent laning phase on, but you know that towards the top side of the map, he's going to be pretty solid in the 1 versus 1.
Be able to carry. Instead, they lock in the Scion. Now this could also go in the mid, but it does seem like it's more likely to be Prophet's champion.
Yes, you would expect him to be the one to try and hold his own in that 1 versus 1. Ooh, I wonder if Odo Omne will go for the Swain here.
Ooh, it was
Remember
left
that
up.
It is left available.
Oh, we got the
Has been
lock.
Banned in the first 2 games. And you can flex it between both top and mid. Splyce already locking themselves in 2 strong laners with the Caitlyn and the Swain. Swain has really become a staple of the 8.5 meta, played all across the world, picked or banned in almost every single game. He is just extremely well-rounded, and it's the flexibility of just being able to move him all across the map that will give you that free. And Splyce have a big advantage here because what they can now do is they know whether the Scion is going to be going mid or top because they have the last pick. Or Splyce will have the last pick, which means that they can just put the Swain wherever the Scion is.
Exactly. And you know, Swain has had just so much success across the world. In general, I feel like he hasn't really hardly lost most of the games we've seen him played, but he is such a frequent ban because of that. But on the other side, Roccat, they're going to at least get some things for themselves that we wanted to see. The Olaf getting locked in for Memento. You said early game he's going to be able to get into the bottom lane, get into the mid. Memento had already been able to kind of go places, get wards down, stop Xerxes' aggression, but he wasn't able to be as aggressive himself.
Well, now, I wonder what Roccat are going to do because they have left the Rise open. We talked about how it's a big pick for Blank.
Ooh.
Camille locked in. So you would imagine this is a Swain mid, Camille top. So they're kind of losing the flex potential that the Swain does have. And they're actually going to ban away the Cassio because they're expecting the Scion to be moved away from the Camille lane. and they do not want to have Profit on something that can counterpick the Swain. So they might even ban a Vladimir here too. But I think like the most sensible ban would just be Rise. Put Rocket on something a little more uncomfortable. Or put Blank, rather, on something a little more.
Yeah, meanwhile, Rocket's still kind of focusing all their attention and trying to deny as much from Kasing. But the Alistar being banned is a little odd here because it's not really Kasing's forte. He likes these more range supports.
Yeah, that's very true, but I think they're just showing respect because Alistar can be quite obnoxious for the Thresh, and it also pairs up quite nicely with the Caitlyn, and it can make engaging rather difficult.
Yeah, very true.
Jhin actually being taken off the board. I guess they're expecting that from EQ. Now, I'm throwing it out there. Ashe could be an option here. We've seen it brought out from mini True Packs before, and it often does pretty well into the Caitlyn. It gives you another engage option, either as a follow-up to the Silent Ulti or as an initial engage tool. But it could be a prospect here for EQ. I feel like I've seen him play it in the past, given that he now has 3 splits with us in the LCS, so I think that's a pretty safe gamble to take.
One of the more experienced players on the Roccat side, actually, in terms of ULCS stage experience. Let's see. Splyce still having 10 seconds before they decide to round out their composition.
I feel like that they... Oh.
Trundle support.
Yes, I do believe that is in fact a Trundle support. No.
I think it's top and there's like Camille support.
Okay, so everything can be flexed right now.
Triple flex.
It could be a Trundle jungle. I wouldn't expect it. It could also be a Camille jungle. Wouldn't expect it. In my head, it is a Trundle support. It is Camille top and Swain mid. But I don't know just yet, Pyra.
No, I don't think anybody knows right now. So Rocket, they've got to lock in, not knowing exactly how it's going to all stack up. EQ takes the Jinx, by the way, and now that's a champion he actually hadn't played during the regular season. And Blank gets a chance to go for the Anivia once more.
Okay, so Roccat definitely going much more for scaling team fight. They have a pretty strong early game with the Olaf. Perhaps the Sejuani would have been better in terms of the overall comp. But regardless, I still think that it is a fine, safe pick. You don't really know what's mid, so Splyce could go Kassadin again here. But we'll see. What's the final lock-in for Splyce?
All right, Kasing's just going to go Taric.
Okay, so it's got to be Camille...
Or Trundle jungle.
It's Trundle jungle, Pyra.
Wow.
Wow, we're actually
When's the
gonna
last time we've seen that?
A Trundle jungle. I don't... Stats, please help us. When was the last time we've seen
I'd like to phone a friend, please.
Jungle? Yes. Please help us out. We'll talk a little bit more about it when we get into game. Let's look at the overall concept. Roccat, team fighting. Definitely the name of the game for them. Blanc can have an opportunity to redeem himself after the Anivia against H2K. So they just want to scale. They want to farm. They have a lot of wave clear. They don't want to try and do anything too proactive in the early game other than Memento. He may look to go for a couple of early jungle invades. Now, Splyce's comp. A little bit more eccentric. They have Odo on a big carry once again. They can put him in a side lane. They have multiple split pushes available. Caitlyn is pretty safe in the middle lane, especially with her ability to escape, and also the Taric providing a little bit of assistance too. The Taric ultimate will help a lot with the anti-team fighting tools, but I must be honest, the Splyce win conditions do not come across immediately to me. This is a very unique composition that I typically would not expect. So we're going to be learning together, Pyra.
Excellent. I love learning things. And Vedius, I'm going to respond to your call for help because I've been told from our statistics people they had to dig pretty deep into the archives here to find out. Trundle jungle has actually been played a total of 4 times, but only in the LCL this split.
The LCL.
You got to look over to CIS before you want to see that happening. Well, let's see. Splyce taking a page from that book and trying to close this one out with some style points, mixing it up. And Roccat, their backs against the wall. They are down 0-2. They need to bring it back 3 times in a row if they want to punch their ticket to Copenhagen. Roccat have everything to lose here, but they have already shown to be able to surprise. Can they do it again? One last chance.
They only have one last chance, Pyra. So they got to get through a Trundle jungle.
Try saying it 5 times fast.
Trundle jungle, Trundle jungle, Trundle jungle, Trundle jungle. Fudge!
You almost got it.
Okay, almost. But now, Xerxe. He's running Press the Attack, and it looks like he's also got a sorcery follow-up. So I'm going to assume that he's running the Gathering Storm. And he may very well be running the movement speed as well that you also have on the second tree. He could also be running the cooldown reduction. I'm sure that'll be buzzed to one of the two of us in a short while. But press the attack. Basically, one of the big values I can see from this Trundle is that Olaf is known for being a great early skirmisher. You really don't want a 2v2 against him because he has the axe spam, he does true damage on his E, the lower his health goes, the more attack speed he gets. He's basically just a really strong early duelist, and he sticks to you very effectively. One of the weaknesses of Olaf is that he has no dashes, and he has no escapes. So Trundle Pillar can act as a really effective tool, especially pre-6 to kite him, but also cut him off from the rest of his team. So you see an Olaf running in, he's trying to get onto your backline, you instantly throw the pillar up, and there can be no more follow-up. But also I just think that in terms of the early game, Trundle, due to his ability to reduce the enemy's attack damage, can also just help in terms of those early skirmishes. Take some of those stats away, mitigate his trading power, and basically just be an effective early skirmisher against the Olaf. Now, I must admit, I haven't seen a huge amount of Trundle versus Olaf in the jungle. Therefore,
I have, but I don't know if my experience counts.
this is mainly just a lot of theory crafting and the prospects as to why Xerxes would go for it. But we'll get to see. You know, I can also see the Pillar being very effective against low mobility champions like the Anivia as well. The Jinx is in there too. But I think one of the big things is the Scion engage as well. You throw up the pillar, Scion runs in, you want to try and set up that engagement. Oh, you can't because there's a pillar that denies that. It's very similar in how an Anivia wall can act to deny a lot of Scion engages too.
Funny enough, we got both in this game.
Yeah, really looking forward to seeing how Xerxes will make this Trundle work. His clear speed is relatively quickly, a little bit slower than the Olaf, who right now is heading up towards the top side.
Okay, there is a ward there though, so if Mento did want to make a level 3 gank happen, it would have been spotted out by Odoamne. As you pointed out, not going to be as much, as I say, there's not going to be as much action. The mid lane completely proves me wrong. Blank just gets got by Nisqy, turns it around a little bit. But Mento, once again, he's moved up towards the top. He's moved around where the ward was, so Odoamne's got to be careful.
Yeah, Odo has no idea that this is going on. Glacial Augment is on Prophet, but he will be spotted out by the ward now. So they know jungle is topside. Xerxes may look to invade on the Krugs to steal away some of the jungle caps. He's just focusing on farming for the time being. Big farm discrepancy being built up given that Memento spent a lot of time in the top lane. Looking across some of the other laners, Blanc doing absolutely fine in the mid lane. Here we go. First potential Trundle gang. No. He's getting me excited there.
Trying to steal some farm. It's okay. It's okay, Ven. You're allowed to get excited.
Oh, he's going back. He's going back. Go on, Xerxes. Get a gank in.
Towards the mid lane. Okay. Vision of Empire. There's a vision of Blank flapping his way back to tower.
Yeah, the ward there was enough to spot out Xerxes trying to set up that sneaky play. This, by the way, guys, is typically what you see from a Caitlyn lane, just
especially against a Jinx.
Oppression, yeah. Now, the thing about Jinx is she is very similar to Caitlyn in the sense that a lot of her damage basically only comes from her auto attacks. So her early trading in lane is not the strongest. But once she gets a couple of levels under her belt, once she's got a BF, she can be a little bit stronger. Now Nisqy forced to flash.
Yeah, the wall was up, so Nisqy was able to push him back on Xerxes. He's going up towards the top.
Here we go.
He's got to be careful. Have to flash. There goes Prophet. Odoamne comes in with the hook shot off the back of the pillar. And meanwhile, Blanc got egged.
He did get egged. Prophet also survives in the top lane. That was a really cool interaction. Seeing the pillar be used to set up Odoamne to then get the stun off. Didn't even think about that.
You can tell these guys have been practicing.
Yeah, we're learning so much today, Pyra.
Yeah, I mean, this is great from Splyce, though, to see them kind of pull out like something out of their bag of tricks.
It's a Xerxes special. You know, back last year when he was on the Unicorns of Love, he always drafted these really unique junglers. He was kind of one of the big innovators for Ivern.
Yeah, he was one of the first players to do it.
Rumble Jungle 2. He was playing Zac when it wasn't really meta, and now he's doing it again with the Trundle.
Yeah. Never been shy of playing things that other people might not have thought of and making them work more often than not. It's one of the reasons Xerxes is considered to be such a solid jungler, and he's been performing, honestly, incredibly well in this entire series as well as this whole split.
Certainly has been. Now, oh,
that's
okay.
how it happened, man.
Right, yeah. So basically, Nisqy lands a good combo. He is able to get the chase down because Blanc ran out of mana.
That feels
and
bad.
Forced him into egg, and a little unfortunate there for Blanc. But now he's level 6. He'll push out the wave, go back to base, buy his tier, TP back in, and he's running the unsealed spellbook. Always a bit of a controversial subject between Anivia players because many Anivia players see that you only ever run TP for the laning phase. So outside of that, you don't get a huge amount of value. Which is why having the Unsealed Spellbook is good, because you can then trade out of it. But many other Anivia players prefer to just run things like the Cleanse or the Heal, and then just get something like a Comet, which just gives you a little bit more trading power and an extra bit of damage.
Right, but clearly Blank, he's focused on trying to survive, make sure he can farm up as much as he possibly can, because it isn't going to be about this laning phase. It is going to be about the late game. This is the Rocket game plan that we've seen have success. They've finally gone to it. It's taken them 2 games to get there, though. Let's see if they've got anything else left in the tank here. Hiku and Norscaron going to get spotted. They get the hook off, but there's the Dazzle. They get Flay 2 in, but Hiku gets instant exhausted, traps her down. Kabi's also taking a lot of damage, though. Oh, he pulls him right over. Kabi's going to have to flash. The Rockets are out. Nobody's coming to help. Flash is following, heals everything. The hook, it's not going to be there. The Jinx, Hiku, he's overstepped it. Can he stay alive? No summoner spells. Kasing is looking for that auto. The hook comes in. Norscaron's going to save his carry's life.
Blanc comes in. Oh,
Kasing, he's gonna get stunned up against the wall. It's his first blood for Roccat. It is!
Roccat finally secured themselves first blood after what was a bit of a crazy trade down in the bottom lane.
That was sick, man. It looked like it was all over for Hiku. He burns both the summoners. Norscaron gets a clutch hook. And the teleport for Blank. That's why you take the teleport, I guess.
There you go, Blank. He didn't use it for lane. He ends up finding a successful play down bot.
He's continuing to find a successful play down bot.
Very close wall there.
Yeah.
Hobbit able to get out of it. But when we get to see the replay, this is overall just a great trade from Norscaron and Hiku. They go on. Traps come out a little bit too late here. Hiku wants to use them afterwards. They may have been on cooldown. Not entirely sure why he delayed it so much. But he then tries to go in for the flash. And then, oh, the body block from Kasing means that when the flash actually comes through from Hiku, it's not enough. Now, Norscaron, he tries to help his AD carry out a little bit. He tries to give him the heal. You think Norscaron's going to die, but then the TP comes in for Blanc. And now we actually see a gank up on the top side.
Yep. Ganking up towards the top. Prophet's going to get stopped up once again. Subjugated by Xerxes. He's trying to go unstoppable, gets interrupted, trying to run back, flash forward, followed. And Odoamne claims a kill.
And this is Splyce sticking to a win condition that has proved to be successful so many times over the later stages of the split. Xerxes camps for Odo. He's on a carry. Set this guy up to be the big impactor in the game. And like Odo has been like the best performing player so far of this series. His Camille performance in game 2, constantly finding opportune flanks. His overall performance in game 1, this guy has had such a huge impact in this game. And comparatively to Prophet, he's really struggled to have the same kind of impact as his counterpart.
And Prophet has been much more on these tanks. Obviously, the Gnar was something that he played in game number 1, and not to incredible success, even though he was able to out-split push on the sides by Memento. Now, Niski's might be in some trouble here. He goes for the Demonic Ascension, and in goes Memento, gets the kill with the Ragnarok on.
All right, now we have a game on our hands.
Yeah, we do, Vedius. This is what we wanted to see out of this series.
Yeah, Roccat. They don't have any early game focused win conditions, and funnily enough, now they're finding way more opportunities.
Funny how that works sometimes to get the Flay back on Kasing. He's going to be in some trouble, not even going to be able to pop his ultimate because he is only level 5, and down he goes, Hiku picking up one.
Kasing, we talked a little bit about how he prefers these ranged supports. When you put him on things like the Tahm Kench, the Braum, the Taric, he really struggles to have the same level of impact, and now we can see what that Morgana ban really is doing for Roccat. They're finding leads in the bottom lane. The 2v2 in the mid is going in favor of Roccat, and yes, while Prophet is falling behind, at least Roccat are gaining advantages elsewhere.
And crucially, they're able to just play around the map wherever they want. Let's see how this play started again. Niski forced to walk and gets hit by the Flash Frost.
You know, and while Blanc did make a bit of a mess up with his wall last week against H2K, he is really making up for it this week. He's had so many great walls this time around. It helps secures a kill in mid. Then Roccat literally just run bot. Big misplay there from Kasing. He knows that they do not have control over the river. Your mid lane is dead, dude. You got to concede it. You have to accept the fact that you're not going to be able to set a vision. He does, no flash, and he does.
Yep. Now, before that all happened, Splyce were able to make the play up towards the top, taking down Prophet. Of course, Odoamne was pretty confident coming into this matchup that he was going to be able to do that and exploit Prophet.
Yep.
Xerxes, also, you know, the combo. This is what's made this Splyce team so good, and we saw it on display the last 2 games. But Roccat have found an in other places.
Roccat. This is definitely looking good for them. Remember, they're the ones with a big team fight comp. And, you know, we keep looking at this Splyce composition, and it's just kind of a little all over the place. You never really consider Trundle to be that amazing team fight impactor. You look at Caitlyn, and she kind of has a mid-game lull, whereas Jinx, because of the passive attack speed that she gains from her Q, like she'll have a little bit more of a mid-game value once she hits that 2-item spike. And Nivea going to be ramping up, all scaling towards those team fights. And Roccat setting themselves up nicely right now.
These are all champions that can take over games. Xerxes going to face check into Memento. And there's the subjugate on, but it's a team fight that they are willing to take. Memento unable to grab the lantern out to safety. Meanwhile, Blank and Nisqy going toe-to-toe. Here comes Prophet in on the TP, but he's going to have to get the hell out of dodge before the rest of Splyce collapse on top of a misplay from Roccat.
Oh, Memento, he feels that he could commit to the fight, and he ends up losing his life pick now.
Get the stun on to Prophet. Hook only lands on the minion. Prophet decides not to go in any further, just gets Aurora the Slayer out onto the cannon creep.
Ulti a little wonky there. A lot of summoner spells used though. TP for Prophet, TP for Odo. Kill though goes in favor of Splyce. They get what they want, and now they have control over the river, reclaiming a lot of the controls. A lot of damage once again comes down onto Blank.
Yeah. That was a clutch Cosmic Radiance though from Kasing that time around. Otherwise, Memento might have traded 1-for-1.
Would very well have been. Once we get the replay, we can look a little bit closely at it. Now Xerxes just coming to help his bottom lane push out so they can go back to base. Let's see here now. They have full vision control. 3 members, they know this is happening. They go for the engage. Blanc just trying to keep the mid laner away. But then here, the moment the ulti comes in, the pillar, you can see how difficult it is for Memento to get away. We talked a little bit at the very beginning about how that pillar can be really effective against champions like the Olaf, and we got to see it in practice.
Yeah. We also got to see a very effective strategy to deny the Thresh Lantern. It's called stand on top of it.
Yes. Very obnoxious. I hate when that happens. Roccat end up losing out on the exchange. They will lose control over the river. Cloud Drake will be spawning in about a minute 40.
Gold game is pretty even right now, though.
Yep.
Like, even though Rocket are definitely playing more towards the later stages of the game, they've been still trying to execute some plays, usually in response to Splyce's positioning, but that's the first time they've actually lost out on it. Memento, however, is not deterred. Sitting in this brush in the mid, looking for the pickup onto Nisqy. Won't be easy, though. Nisqy's got his flash. He's got everything that a level 9 Swain could hope for.
But, I mean, so the bright sides for Splyce are Odo's fed. He's got a healthy CS lead, really strong, up in the top lane. They can put him off in a side lane. Great, good job. Splyce are happy bunnies. The issue is, though, let's say Roccat group up around Baron. Let's say they've got 2 items. They know they take it pretty damn quick. And they say, you know what, we don't want you to split push, Odo. You have to come. You have to come fight us now. I don't know if Splyce can really effectively stall with the comp that they have. Roccat from actually just forcing that Baron down and forcing him to a fight. Because I feel like right now, their ability to play on side lanes is not strong enough to force Roccat to split apart. So the emphasis right now is on Splyce to try and find a couple more picks. Maybe a couple more ganks towards the top side. Maybe another early fight or skirmish that can go in their favor.
There we go.
Could be it, but Blank, very aware, once again, able to dodge out on another gank.
Good wall off that time, too. Even though the Vision of Empire smacked him, he was able to get away.
Yeah, and this is something that he's done a pretty good job of during the regular season, just typically avoiding ganks. A lot of Age is now done. Hook lands.
Okay, bring a Memento in if they can. He actually doesn't take the Lantern. They opt not to go for it. Kasing didn't take too much damage off that one.
I think they saw that the duo was roaming down. Nisqy does have the TP as well, so decided not to take the gamble. They got the cleanse out from Kasing though, so still advantage gain. Blank soloed the blue buff, so he's going to be happy as well. Okay. Drake now spawn and stun.
Xerxes immediately going for that one. And Nisqy going to join him pretty soon. Let's see if Rocket wants to go for the contest. You can see Memento around the side. He's got flash. He didn't want to get into the pit. But it looks like it's not worth trying to burn anything like that. He throws the axe, but he doesn't find it.
So, Drake for Drake on either side.
Mountain for Cloud, though. Splyce are going to be able to rotate around a little bit faster. Oh, my goodness. Blank gets pulled back by the Never Move, and then the wall for the pillar. Xerxes, though, not a lot of damage dealt onto him.
Oof, look at the damage, though, from that ultimate from Blank. But that's another cool interaction. The knock-up allows you to be dragged in from Nisqy. Any form of CC will work. Stun now lands on the Memento.
Okay, there's the dazzle. Let's see if he can get out this time. He's able to.
Just barely. The root was about to land there. Will force him to go back to base.
He had the Ragnarok, too, but all the same, you don't want to have to use that defensively. Prophet, though, looking to go in onto Odoamne, but turnabout is fair play right there. That shield is huge. Prophet finds nothing.
Another gang towards the middle. They really want to try and put some pressure down onto Blank, but he is holding his own. Farm coming along nicely. Rod of Age is already done. The tier is stacking up. Things looking much better this time around for Roccat.
Oh, certainly. When you compare it to the last couple of games, much different in the draft. Much better adaptation. Splyce, of course, as you pointed out, a very unique composition, a very different kind. I'm wondering how experimental this really is.
Yep. I feel like that after the first 2 games, they kind of expected, or they looked at the difference between the 2 teams as pretty significant so that they could try something a little new. I would imagine this is something that's prepared. Right? This is not something that they just threw out in the heat of the moment. I do not believe that Peter Dern as a coach would just allow them to just suddenly pick Trundle. This is definitely something I would imagine they've practiced in scrims. And so far, it's not like that they're dramatically far behind, right? Gold's still pretty even. They perhaps need to put a little bit more focus now on trying to snowball Odo a little bit more.
Yeah, but meanwhile down in this bottom lane, you can see Hikyu's going to become a wave clear machine. He's got his Runaan's Hurricane already finished, which means he's not just going to fire 1 rocket, he's going to fire 3 rockets on every auto attack. And Jinx definitely has some pretty impeccable wave clear. It's going to be hard for Kobbe to kind of match this pressure while he's still building towards his Infinity Edge.
Yeah. We talked about how Jinx does have a slightly stronger mid-game spike, just because of... It's always important to remember how attack speed steroids on AD carries can influence their spike. And the thing about EQ is, because he gets it on his Q, he can just offer a little bit more in these fights. So Splyce are going to have to respect this. I do see
Teleport.
TP coming in the bottom lane.
Double teleport. This could be trouble right now. Hikyu's going to get pulled back. There's going to be another one popped from Prophet. He better cancel, though. This is going to be trouble unless they want to try to take the 5v5. But the Sion is all by his lonesome, and that's a 5-man, 4-man Cosmic Radiance, but it's going to end. Here comes the Sion train, but it's going to end prematurely. Memento and the rest of the team trying to make good their escape, but that was dead on arrival.
Big mistake there from Prophet that is quickly punished by Splyce. He finished off the TP, thinking that they could go for an engage, but Splyce were just in a better position, and now they will be able to secure their first tower of the game.
The first tower of the game as well, just shy of the 18-minute mark. It's going to fall to Splyce. Meanwhile, you can see Hikyu was trying to make a mad dash to put some damage on the mid. Instead, he gets chased away by Odoamne. Memento chucks out an axe to try and push Kasing and Xerxes back, but Splyce are taking control.
So let's see how this all set up. Roccat trying to push towards this tier 1 in the bottom lane. Noskarian helps the AD carry get out, and then all they need to do is run up through the river and disengage. Just get out, you're fine. Cancel the TP. Prophet doesn't. He's immediately forced to flash. The rest of the team tried to save him, but he cannot get out in time. Oof. And overall, Roccat, it was a bad judgment call there. And it ends up costing them...
More than it had to.
Yeah, more than it had to, I think is the best way to describe it, Pyra. Now we do see Odoamne in darkness.
Oh boy,
Xerxes here as well.
This could be trouble. Stepping into the pillar. That's 2 flashes blown. Noskarian and EQ paid for that face check dearly. Memento a little bit late to that party.
Oof, Splyce putting the pressure on now. I must admit as well, just suddenly had another thought. You got to remember that Xerxes' ulti will steal away stats. And one of the things that Memento's ulti also gives you is a lot of stats, a lot of defensive stats too. So when that Olaf is running into your face, you steal away the bonus stats that he gives you, and then he becomes a lot easier to kill, especially when he's running into your face.
Yeah,
so I think
that's not good.
I think that's kind of why, you know, we talked a little bit about, I think that the Trundle is kind of like an answer to the Olaf. And you can see now in these fights how much of an answer he can be, because the moment that Olaf runs in, you steal his stats. The Caitlyn and the Swain can just focus the front line, and then with him gone, it becomes easy for them to actually win out. So I could see additional value there. We'll see if he's able to pull it off in the fights to come. As Baron spawning in about 15 seconds, not going to be the immediate priority, but Splyce already setting up a lot of vision around it.
Yeah, and this is what's actually also another thing very different about these games. In the previous games, Rocket have been able to get a lot of vision inside the enemy jungle, inside the rivers. They've not been able to do it as much this time around because Splyce have actually been able to fight them back. Let's see what they can do here, though. In the mid, it's Hikyu that actually finds himself caught right into Xerxes. It's a lot of damage, but the rest of the team has arrived, and they're looking to chase down the Trundle. The hook is going to catch on top of him. Ragnarokkin and rolling it. Prophet who picks up the kill, but meanwhile, Odoamne taking down the backline. Will he escape with his life? Trying to take the fight here to the rest of Rocket. Hextech ultimatum, and he's not going anywhere. Popped in by that hook, but it's not going to go down just yet. The Cosmic Radiance, it's too late. He's going to fall. However, so have 2 members of Team Rocket right now. Another hook is not going to catch on. A very extended fight in the mid proves a 2 for 2.
Ooh, very close exchange. Almost ended in disaster for Splyce as Xerxes is overextended. He gets punished for it. But then Odo comes up huge. Comes in from the flank. This guy is always appearing from darkness. Is almost able to get away with his life if Kasing had... I'm not sure if he was out of range or if he just didn't ulti in time, but still very, very close. Roccat, though, were able to secure 2 kills. Splyce returned the same. Gold still very even. And Roccat Still happily scaling towards that team fight setup, but Splyce, to be fair, are never really giving Roccat the opportunity to force a full 5v5 fight.
That's another one for the vocal warm-ups, isn't it? Yeah, Hikyu, he stepped up really far forward in the beginning of that fight. Now is, you know, seeing everyone coming, you still got to be careful if you're an AD carry. You don't want to be face first into a Trundle. But here we are, just past 20 minutes into this game. Things very even right now, and we're going to start seeing some of those item spikes really come into play. Because of the first Runan's Hurricane, Hikyu is yet to get the damage from the Infinity Edge, but that's not a problem for Kobbe, who's also rocking a Static Shiv, who's really started to pull ahead here on this Caitlyn. Okay, pillar, hook, not gonna land. No more fighting in the mid, but everyone's keen to be around it. We've only had one tower fall in this entire game so far, Vedius. For all the action and all the attempts, that's all we've seen.
Now, more fun learnings with Trundle.
Oh, yes?
Looks like he's gone for the Zeke's Convergence very early on. Oh, actually, before we get to that, let's have a look at the replay. So, Hikyu by himself in the middle lane. Always a risk. Xerxes uses the pillar, drags him in with Niski. This is fine. What Xerxes doesn't realize is, there are actually 4 people around. Maybe he wasn't by himself. And then Odo sneaks up from behind, easily picks up that kill. So they end up trading initially 1-for-1. Now Odo, being the confident playmaker that he is, thinks that this is fine. Because he actually walks away thinking that the fight is going to be disengaged and then walks back in. So I feel like Kassing could have saved his top laner there. Instead, he misread the situation.
Oh boy.
Oh,
Flash
wow,
Frost.
okay.
Finding
Did
out.
not realize this happened.
Yeah, that's a little different.
Okay, so they actually forced out the flash from Kobbe as well. Good play there from Blank. This guy, who plays this guy so much, he's actually had, so far, pretty solid performances throughout this this series.
Oh, yeah. Give it to Blank. They've been trying to camp him all game, too, and he hasn't gone down. Hasn't bowed down, either. Splyce still rocking a slim lead, and while all the replays were happening, they did pick up another dragon. It was an Ocean.
Right. It's a good spot there, Pyro. Scaling starting to come in from both sides. Right, so back to my core Trundle point.
Yeah, go for it.
Zeke's Convergence has been picked up for Xerxes, and I assume he has paired that up with Kobbe. But it actually looks like he may have paired it up with Niski. Not entirely sure who's paired it up with. Point is, you use your ulti, which is obviously really close and really easy to proc. Because you're melee, it's really easy to stick onto a target. And then, it is the AD carry. Yeah, I was right. Okay, so it was Kobbe. He then throws the auto attack, he then ignites it, and then you get a bunch of extra damage. It's basically super easy to proc it, and basically just get more damage coming out from your AD carry. I think it makes sense. It gives you pretty cool stats. It gives you armor, magic resist, mana, and cooldown reduction. And given that he already has Cinderhulk, he's pretty happy. So he's a pretty tanky dude. He gets the bonus stats from his ulti. He enables his AD carry to do even more damage as well. And this is why I just really want to illustrate that this was clearly prepared.
Oh yeah, no, there's so much that's gone into this that's unexpected, but they clearly have practiced it enough times to kind of know how to play this around. So it's nice to see Splyce have some extra tricks in their playbook. I was thinking Roccat might be the ones to kind of throw those curveballs out, but Splyce did it in this game, and they've kept it close. Focus seems to be around the mid lane right now, though. Of course, with Baron on the Rift, nothing is for certain.
Yeah, the focus is mid because by having control over it, it enables you to get control over the river, which you can see right now Splyce is setting up for a lot of control wards in their inventory. There is one control ward in the Baron Pit, which, shame, Splyce, you should have checked that. That will just be sitting there for the time being. They don't need to clean it out right now. They'll likely just push another wave mid, wait for Odoamne to push out the wave on bot, have him rotate up with the rest of his team, force a numbers advantage, and then that could be an opportunity for them to look to try and force play around Baron, but it's always dangerous forcing Baron against Nivea around the Baron Pit.
Yes, also, if you want to group into a pit and you have Jinx Rockets to contend with, because she did just pick up that Infinity Edge, so now we see that kind of matched on the damage. Really need to see if they're going to be able to get the Poland. Oh, that's speaking of Poland, Blank. He gets knocked back by the Never Move, but he does pin Niski up against the wall. No damage returned, though. Or very little, rather.
Splyce actually lost the Rift Scuttler there. That's going to be a bit of pain for them. Odo just continuing to do Odo things.
Be scary. Kill jungle camps.
250
one-shot 80 carries.
farm at 25 minutes into the game. He's been very efficient with his farming and also just, once again, having a huge impact overall.
This is a large part of why Odoamne hasn't missed a playoff.
Yeah.
Like, he's just a really consistent, solid player, and there was so many question marks in the early part of Splyce's season because we weren't seeing that out of him. And it just seemed because Splyce as a team hadn't quite gelled yet, didn't know exactly how they wanted to play the game together. And it's nice to see them really pick up and have their potential unlocked here.
Exactly that. Splyce should certainly have developed. And for Roccat, while they haven't made the same most obvious developments, you can see that in things like their vision control and their ability to come in with a clear game plan is something that they've gradually grown throughout the split. And it's less noticeable, like there's less statistical support to suddenly enhance that viewpoint, but unfortunately, engage.
Hello, Cosmic Radiance coming in. However, we're going to get blocked off by a pillar. Trying to go in once more. The teleport is going to be canceled.
From Odo, so Swain's still sitting onto it for now, but that was Roccat trying to force a fight. They feel pretty strong right now. We talked about how into late game team fights, definitely what they want to go for. Noscaran tried to make a play, uses the flash, isn't quite able to do it. A very quick turret ultimate dissuades the engage from Roccat.
But this is pretty typical of the games that Roccat win anyways. They get themselves into the late game relatively even, maybe a tiny bit behind, but not very behind. And then they just outfight, outscale. However, they're losing a lot of towers right now. That's going to be number 3 taken down. Camille hook shots away.
But look at how close the gold is, even with 3 towers down. Roccat still very much in this game. The Baron is probably going to be one of the big deciding factors because that's where you'll see a lot of these late game fights come from.
Never move, Vision of Empire. And of course, the big Demonic Ascension, Nisqy trying to take down Prophet. He flashes over. Prophet has just had a hard one this game. Every time he goes into the side lane, somebody ruins his day.
So much damage coming out from Nisqy. And the thing is, both Camille and Swain do pretty effectively up against the undead monster, which means that because Nisqy still has his TP, they can keep Camille topside, hang around the Baron. And now let's see how quickly this actually goes down, because for Splyce, this should actually be pretty quick.
Okay, they're going to get the stun off. Actually, peel away, look for the Olaf, and there's the Hextech ultimatum. Now, do they have the damage to take down Odo Wande? Let's see if they can pull it in. Not before he gets the pick off, and the wall is going to melt. Odo is not going to fall today. And with the jungler gone, Splyce, they can just keep this pressure game up. Meanwhile, Nisqy down bottom, trying to push this one in. Prophet just trying to stop him.
And it's Splyce that are actually forcing fights onto Roccat. They're the ones that feel confident in their ability to make stuff happen. And now they'll get themselves a kill, they'll get themselves a Drake. Nisqy beating down onto this tier 2. Everything seems to be back in control of Splyce. Roccat really struggling to find the fights that they want.
Yes, indeed. Nisqy does get run into by Prophet. The Decimating Smash is going to get dashed away from here, but it's just love taps compared to what Nisqy's able to deal in terms of damage, and the rest of Splyce were not far behind. Roccat just unable to find those fights, unable to find those kills.
Exactly that. Roccat, they still have the scaling option, but it's going to get harder and harder based on the proactivity that Splyce are demonstrating.
It's all about that scaling, though.
Yeah.
Get the 2 needlessly large rods on Blank. I always look at that, and even I know the items change, but I always just kind of look sideways at it, like,
Yeah,
wait.
it always looks a little funny for the
why 2 rods?
old school League of Legends players. Now Roccat, they're the ones grouping up around the Baron. Do they force it? They do have teleport on Prophet. Here we go.
All right, Baron's going to be started. They've got 4 members. Camille trying to sniff around the side. How far do Roccat want to commit to this? It's already down to 4,500. They're going to have to run away. Memento taking a little bit of extra damage. Blank getting popped down. Here comes Xerxes. It looks like they're going to lose at least one here. Odo Wande over the wall. Hextech ultimatum looking for Hikyu, but they can't quite follow.
Big stun.
Here comes Prophet. They got a huge one. Odo Wande, though, he takes out the 80 carry. Nisqy's flashed over the wall with a Demonic Ascension. And it looks like Odo Wande is not keen to let anyone get away. None shall escape except Memento to tell the tale, as even Prophet is locked up under the tower. The train is going, and it's an ace in the hole to finish him off, or not. He's actually going to hold on.
But Splyce secure 3 kills. They have the Baron in their eyes. And Roccat, they just wanted the fight to happen. They knew they have a team fight comp. They knew that if they could just get the 5 versus 5, they could somehow turn this game around. But unfortunately, Splyce were the better executors. Splyce were the ones to take the Baron. And Splyce are on track to take the series over Roccat.
They could sweep this one out. It would be very, very good for them going up next week. Memento taking a huge heaping helping of damage. Odo Wande is a terror in every lane.
Odo Wande has been pivotal in this series. While Nisqy has certainly played well, he's racked up some impressive scorelines. I feel that Odo has really been the big swing factor that has determined the outcome. Like, you think about the Sion engages that he got in Game 1, you think about Game 2, the constant flanks and threat that he had on the backline, and here again in Game 3, constantly providing opportunities, and every time Splyce look like they're about to fall behind, it is Odo that is coming up big. This is why you give this man a carry.
Oh yeah. Definitely serviceable on all the other things too, but seeing the variety, seeing the versatility that Splyce have is just so impressive, and they are well on their way to getting that 3-0 victory. And remember what that means for them. A guaranteed spot in Copenhagen. A matchup against G2 Esports.
The rematch.
The rematch, in fact, yeah. Probably be wanting a little bit of revenge for losing out on that tiebreaker game as well.
But now Splyce, they do still have to close out the game. They've got to break into the base against an Anivia and a Jinx, which is always challenging, but
They don't get got.
Caitlyn will be able to help. You can also use the Trundle Pillar to catch targets out as they try to defend.
There's a lot of support going for Kobbe right now, not just the Zeke's Convergence. We also see the wonderful, wonderful support item of Ardent Sensor. Buff him up as much as possible. Four members strong.
Oh, the wall. Not enough to keep Kobbe away.
That's okay. Kobbe can just shoot right over it. It's a chest-high wall. All right, down goes the tower. 31 minutes, 32 nearly on the clock. The Goldies started to kind of swing pretty big here for Splyce. It was only about 2,000, 3,000 at most any time in the game, but it really turned around after that fight. Now it's going to be another one. Let's see, the Cosmic Radiance is down and the health bars are melting here. Kobbe's going to start it off by taking down Prophet. Down goes the Anivia, and they don't even need to worry about breaking the base because they have broken the backs of Team Roccat, cleaning house. And is this where they do it? With a triple kill for Ottawamne, there are no members of Roccat standing.
Splyce obliterate Roccat. They cement their dominance over the opposition, and they're on their way to the semi-final.
Looking to sweep this one away. We saw a few fastballs, we saw a curveball, and Splyce pitched a no-hitter against Roccat.
With that victory, Splyce make their way to Copenhagen. They will be going up against G2 Esports in the semi-final, and getting a 3-0 win over Roccat will do so much for their confidence moving into next week.
No kidding, man. They did it in a very calm, collected, standard Splyce way in 2 games, and in the third, they decided to mix things up a little bit, and they were the stronger team every time.
And you think about the development that this team has made from the beginning of the split, where they seem to be a little all over the place, relying on 50-minute games to pull out wins, just hoping that they can get those late-game team fights in order to scramble back from what was a horrible early-game deficit. They are now the ones controlling the early game. They're now the ones dictating the pace. They have multiple carry threats in every single role. This team is looking strong, and now they've secured themselves as a top 4 team in Europe.
It is incredible, though. Really, it's hard to understate how much growth we've seen out of Splyce, because we were even looking for these points of critique. Where can they falter? Where is maybe other win conditions for teams? We looked at Nisqy maybe as a potential weak link, but he showed up today in a big way. First getting really fed on that Kassadin, and then just everything else he did afterwards. Fantastic play out of him. The bottom lane doing its job well. In Splyce, there's so little to complain about these guys.
Yep, and for Roccat, it was always going to be a struggle for them coming into the series. I saw them as like the younger brother to Splyce in many ways, in that a lot of their strengths Splyce also share, but Splyce has more experience. They have a little more in terms of support structure, and when you have 2 years older your younger brother, not only can you do everything that he can do, but you have a couple of new tricks that you can bring out as well that he isn't prepared for. And it was going to be challenging for Roccat to really stand a chance. And while they did show glimmers of brilliance, unfortunately the execution wasn't quite there. But that doesn't mean that things are all lost for Roccat. You can see that foundations of this team are still very strong. This team was able to bring Roccat to playoffs after so long apart. And going into summer, this roster has a lot of potential. You know, you can see the growth that can be made, and the future prospects of this team does hold.
Oh yeah, no, I mean, it's despite the fact that it goes to a 0-3 result, Roccat have a lot to celebrate. The fact that they made playoffs, ending that drought, and with a team that I think a lot of people didn't expect anything from at the start of the split. They really proved their worth, and they proved that they could be a team to tangle with going into this spring split. We'll see what happens in the summer.
Yes, yes we will.
All right, now as we close out that last game, we want to know who you think is going to deserve that player of the series. So why don't you guys hit us up on LoL Esports with your favorite. You can choose from Ottawamne, Xerxes, or Nisqy. And honestly, I think it's a hard one, man.
I mean, for me,
Odo's definitely up there, though.
It's got to be Odo. I feel like he had the most impact at every single one of those games. I felt like his Camille was monstrous. His sign engages in game 1 were flawless. And with the leads that he was given, he was able to execute upon them beautifully. So for me, he was my MVP of the series.
Yeah, I think it's kind of hard to argue with that one, to be honest, because of just exactly what you said, so much impact. But I do want to give some props to everybody else on the Splyce side. And that means, of course, Splyce, they are advancing to the semifinals. Either H2K or Vitality are going to join them tomorrow. And since they're the 3rd seed, as you pointed out, Vedius, they're guaranteed to face off against G2. Nice little grudge match going on there.
Yep, so the winner of Vitality and H2K will go up against Fnatic. So it guaranteed some exciting semifinals, but they don't have to wait that long because we've got more exciting League of Legends tomorrow.
We certainly do. And before we even get to that, you talked about odoamne being that possible big player of the series. Well, for more on Splyce's win, we're going to check in with Medic and hear from him as well.
Thank you very much, Pyra. I am joined by odoamne, the top laner from Splyce. Now, a 3-0 victory on the day. Was that what you were expecting coming into today?
Sort of. I mean, given how our season went and how Rocket season went, I think it was... I was expecting it to be kind of a 3-0. I didn't think they would pose a lot of threats to us, but the first game was kind of iffy because I feel like we just kind of trolled a bit in draft with three losing lanes in a way. I mean, scaling was on our side, but I think that game was too hard and we shouldn't have drafted like that on that one.
Okay, it's odd that you call it too hard because Nisqy had like 8 kills by the 16-minute mark. Like, can draft actually have that much of an impact on a game even if you get these early kills?
Pretty much, because even though he had all those kills, they had pushing top and pushing bot, and they had really good vision set up around the river line, and we barely could walk in and contest that vision because even though we had 8-0 castle lane, their bot lane could always move, or if they wanted to be top side, their top lane could always move. So yeah, that kind of sucked.
Okay. And you were on Sion in that first game. C-tier dog champ, I think you called him on Euphoria, or was it B-tier?
I think it's C tier. He's like the biggest dog. So I mean, not the biggest dog. Maokai is the biggest dog, but he's like the badass of the dogs.
Okay, he's the badass of the dogs. Then you were on Camille in the second 2 games. In the early portions of the split, you were much more on tanks than you were on carries for Splyce. What was it that sort of transferred into you being a more carry-orientated top laner?
I mean, I think coaching staff figured that I was inting too hard on tanks.
Yeah, I remember your Illaoi game.
Oh, that one was a pleasure to play. I enjoyed that one thoroughly, but I think they figured I entered too much on tanks. So if I ent on tanks, then I'm pretty useless. So at least if they put me on carries, there's a chance I don't break my hands and I can do something.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about next week, odoamne. I know you want to get away, but before...
I really need to go to the bathroom, sorry.
I can understand that. Next week you play against G2. Semi-final matchup. Is there anything you're worried about for that matchup?
Nah.
You think you just got it?
I don't think we just got it, but I feel like the last time we met, we lost because of our own fault. And I don't think... I mean, I think they're a worthy opponent, but I don't think it's, one-sided for G2 or anything. I think we have a really good chance to just take them down.
Okay, makes sense. Any prediction you want to give us for that matchup?
3-0?
3-0 to Splyce?
Not really. G2.
3-0 to G2.
Yeah.
Cool, that makes a lot of sense. odoamne, perhaps not that much faith in your team, but we'll see how much faith
we kind of suck, sorry.
We'll see how much faith PGL have in you. Hand it over to you, Shox. Take it away.